Good evening and welcome to the Lopatcong Township Planning Board meeting of June 28th, 2023, I'm sorry. Should put the reading glasses on. At this time, I'd like to invite you to join us in a silent moment of prayer, followed immediately by the oath of allegiance to the flag of our country.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'm required to state that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 by advertising a notice in the Star Gazette and the Express Times and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Okay, Beth, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Members Coyle?
Here.
DeLeo?
Here.
Hardman?
Here.
Lito?
Here.
Weeks? Mayor Mangucci?
Here.
Vice Chairman Sampson?
Here.
Chairman Van Vliet?
Here. Yeah, I guess we'll move on to old business. First, order of business is to approve the minutes of the April 26th, 2023 meeting. We have a caveat working here that we have the transcript that I was sent to work on, and we're also having the video transcribed to add to this. Next meeting we'll approve it if we have it available for us. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Members Coyle?
Yes.
DeLeo?
Yes.
Hardman?
Yes.
Lito?
Yes.
Mayor Mangucci?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sampson?
Yes.
Chairman Van Vliet?
Yes. Okay, the next order of business is the cubes, block 102, lot 9.01 and 9.03. It's the redevelopment plan, preliminary final major site plan. And this is continuation of the hearing from, I believe it was March 2023.
April. It was April. April 26th. And just for the benefit of the record, before council starts, Beth, I believe we have some certifications of members who reviewed transcripts that were not present during that meeting.
Correct.
Okay, and who are the certifications?
Who signed the certifications? Mayor Mangucci, member Ann Coyle, and member Susan DeLeo.
Great, thank you very much. And council, just so you know, the last exhibit that I had was A5.
That matches mine as well. And all of you, thank you for your attention. Thank you particularly for those who have reviewed the transcript. I know it's a bit of an added burden. My name is Christopher Costa from the law firm of Stevens & Lee. I represent the Cubes at US 22 Sub 1 LLC. They're seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for the construction of a warehouse on the property that is known as the Phillipsburg Mall. The current mall building and the proposed warehouse crosses over the border of Powhatan Lopatcong, and the property that is the topic of this application is block 102, lot 9.01 and 9.02 in Lopatcong. Property in Powhatan is block 1, lot 101. The warehouse that is being proposed will be behind the existing restaurants, and it's going to be, if approved, 833,258 square feet. Slightly more of that volume will be in Lopatcong, 428,258 square feet. The property is located in Lopatcong's redevelopment plan area B. And that redevelopment plan controls the use and bulk standards of this property, and that plan was adopted on October 5th. This is a continuation of the April 26th hearing. At that hearing, we completed the testimony of all of our witnesses except for our witness who will be testifying specifically on the waivers. We have certain waivers we're seeking from the redevelopment plan. At that hearing as well, the public had the opportunity to question the witnesses and to provide comments on the application. Accordingly, this evening, our plan is to introduce our witness who's going to address the waivers specifically. Before I introduce that witness, I wanted to just acknowledge that we did receive a letter from the Lopatcong Township Fire Chief dated May 23rd, 2023, listing a number of conditions that we would need to satisfy in order for him to be satisfied with the project, and we do we can satisfy all of those conditions. Would you like me to introduce this as an exhibit?
I believe so.
It'll be A6. And that is the May 23rd, 2023 letter from Chief Louis LaFord Jr. Okay. With that background, I'm just I'm just working on our witness who we're locating right now. I'm going to give you this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Than, James Than from Bowler Engineering, will be addressing the waivers that we are seeking from the redevelopment plan.
Okay, Mr. Than, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
James Thaon, last name Thaon. My business address is 125 Half Mile Road, Red Bank, New Jersey. Would you guys like me to go into my qualifications?
Yes, if you could give the board benefit of your education background and your appearance before this board and other boards in the state of New Jersey.
Sure. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and my license is in good standing. I studied at New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I received a bachelor's of science in civil engineering and a minor in environmental engineering. I have appeared before this board and before council a number of times throughout the course of this project. This project was designed under my supervision, and I have designed numerous projects similar in nature to the one before you, as well as I've been accepted at many boards throughout the state of New Jersey.
Believe you're acceptable.
Thank you. So what I'll refer to tonight, I don't see it marked, but I would imagine it's Exhibit A2. So referring to Exhibit A2, which is a colorized rendering of the overall site layout plan, you've heard a lot of testimony tonight, so really, or prior to tonight, so really what I'll do is just acclimate the board to the variants and waivers that are being requested as part of this project. Specifically, we're requesting a setback variance due to, can everyone hear me okay if I speak loudly? So we're asking for a setback variance on the northern side of the site, on the Lopatcong side of the project, where 275-foot setback is required to a property line, whereas we're proposing 242 feet, which happens where I'm pointing to at the northwestern corner of the building. Now, that 275 feet and that requirement is really important facet of the design and of the redevelopment plan. And so when we looked at this and designed the project, what we did was we looked at it and noticed that only really 1% of the property, the building is actually over that setback line. It may be hard to tell at this scale, but believe it or not, there's actually an angle that happens on that northern property line. And so the vast majority of the building along its western side actually does comply with that 275-foot setback. And also, it was very important to your professionals and to the members that were part of the planning of this project was being respectful of the residents that are north of the project. And it's important to note that those residents are approximately 25 feet lower on their grade elevation if you're standing in this residential development as compared with the existing ring road along the northern property line of the site. In addition to that, and as you've heard from our engineer, there was a real focus on not actually moving that ring road any closer to the residents and keeping the mature vegetated buffer that existed along that northern property line in that location. In addition to that, your code actually required that we had even more buffers than were previously existing in that condition, up to 100 feet worth of buffers. On top of that, we've then added additional berming and a fence on top of that berm and landscaping on top of that. So for those reasons, we feel that yes, there's a small area of 1% of the building that doesn't comply with that setback. The vast majority of it does. We provided significant buffering in that area to be respectful of that property line. In addition to that, there are a few waivers that we're requesting, one of which is with respect to landscape buffering requirements. And again, I'll go over and refer to Exhibit A1, where there's, as we have coined it, the outer loop road and the inner loop road. There's a small area where I'm indicating with my fingers here on the eastern side of the building that is less than 50 feet in its total width. And that's between where there's the Taco Bell building and our inner loop road, and where that loop road circulates around the site. So it's a very small area that doesn't comply with that buffer requirement in that location. We are seeking a waiver for that. But again, being respectful of the different types of uses, we have provided adequate landscaping and fencing in that location. In addition to that, I guess I should stay over this, probably better just to point so everyone knows what I'm looking at, is along the western property line. Detention systems are required by code to be 50 feet away from property lines. And in this location, the detention basin is a little bit less than that requirement. And actually, in some locations, it's relatively on the property line, so to speak, where there's a berm that goes down into the basin. Now, what was important for us is that the existing site has a basin on the northern side and on the southern side of the property, right along the property line, very similar in nature to what we're proposing here tonight. What we've done is we have made one larger basin, as you heard testimony from the site engineer about. And in doing so, we were able to make that compliant with green infrastructure requirements and significantly and robustly landscape that area with water tolerant species. So we are requesting that waiver in that location. And it was asked and requested that we do provide additional trees and shrubs in that buffer area. So we'd be happy to work with your planner and with your board engineer in order to do that in a satisfactory manner. In addition to that, it's a requirement, and we're asking for a waiver for the size of the drive aisle that is along the northern side of the site within the passenger vehicle parking field. We're proposing at 24 feet wide, where the 30-foot wide drive aisle is required in that location up against a building. And we feel that that's justifiable in this location because we have provided a 30-foot wide ring road throughout the entirety of the site to allow for adequate circulation, as well as allowing emergency vehicles to safely traverse the site.
And I believe that wasn't raised as a concern in the fire chief's report that we just received. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you approve that the 24-foot is okay with him?
Yes, that was not in his letter as an area of concern.
Chris, I believe that covers the waivers that we're requesting.
Yep, it does. Any questions for Mr. Ferry?
I have no questions. Over here on the north side, you said that you're, the residents over there, I believe that's the new, Carucci's new development over there. You said that's 25 feet lower. What's 25 feet lower, the street level or, because those are two-story units, aren't they? So is that what you're talking about, the street level to the ring road around there? Is that what's 20 feet lower?
Great clarification. So let's call it Pavement to pavement, where you'd be standing, is 25 feet lower.
So then really, well, I guess if you have a berm and everything, it really, their road would be even with the second floor then if it's 20 feet. But if you have a berm and the fence and everything,
They're
it
not
should
gonna
be
see it.
good, right?
Yeah.
We looked at that in a significant amount of detail, and we didn't want to just come to the boards and say that we've kept the ring road and the existing vegetation. To supplement that,
Yeah.
we've added the berm, we've added a fence on top of the berm, and we've added landscaping on top of that, and we're providing more separation than existed today
So
between.
from your finished road to the top of your berm, your fence, what are we talking?
We actually looked at the line of sight directly from the highest window of a person standing in the residential building,
Okay.
looking towards the warehouse development, and looking at the tallest portion of the warehouse building. And if you were to connect your eye line, if you're looking at me, from there to the top of there, to the roof line of the building, you actually couldn't see it based on the vegetation, berming, and grading that was provided.
There you go.
So the other question I have is there was some kind of issue with the basin down there, right? It was to be considered like a dam.
Yeah,
So does that change anything, like the setbacks?
I guess that's something that's an outstanding technical issue that needs to be worked out as part of the final sort of fine tuning of the design, following any board approval that would be obtained. So the basin will have to be slightly reconfigured in its existing footprint, but we would have to work those technical details out with the applicant's engineer. The setbacks would likely be very similar, but they would have to likely reconfigure it just to get away from that dam classification. And that was my understanding with the testimony that we received 2 months ago, was that they intend to reconfigure that basin, sort of split it in two, similar to what was there before. I think that was the thought. Nothing's been finalized yet.
Is that in Lopatcong or Lopatcong?
That's
To where the
both.
dam-
It's sort of split by the municipal boundary.
And it's worth mentioning, believe it or not, we see dams and basins all the time. The DEP has very stringent standards for what they characterize as a dam. The goal here is that we're going to be classifying these dams as a class 4 dam, which is something that you probably don't realize that you drive around, you're seeing them all the time. And it doesn't look like a prototypical dam that you might be envisioning, if you're looking at like the Hoover Dam or something like that. As I use maybe a bad example, but of what a dam really looks like, that is not the intention of what's here, and we will comply with DEP standards as it relates to a dam for this project.
So I guess that's my question, is the setback doesn't change with the classification, it's still the same,
Right.
still the same setback.
That's correct.
The class 4 dam, is that require an inspection program with the DEP? Or is that,
No, there's no inspection requirements with the class
Okay.
4 dam, but there are standards of design that we
Yes.
must meet as part of
I
that.
understand that. Well, thank you. George, we had some elimination of landscaping here.
Just to go back over a little history, in regards to the variance for the setback of the building, the applicant has at previous year provided cross-sections that did show his multiple layering of protection along that edge for the apartment buildings. Also, just to add as a second thing, we looked at the average setback, as he said the property line was pitched. And if you average the closest point to the apartments and then the furthest point as well as the center point of the building and just average those out, the actual setback average is 176 feet. The code's 175. So on average, the building it's only the one corner that's a little closer. And I think what the applicant has proposed and demonstrated to us through sections, I think will give the necessary protection that we were looking for from for the residential area that adjoins it. On the back, this is the rear of the building that faces the agricultural lands. We do have a requirement that there be a 50-foot buffer in there, and as the applicant has proposed, or has indicated, the original submission had virtually no landscaping on the property edge. The landscaping was all located within his basin as a transition between the wet basin and the dry ground in the basin. He has indicated to us that he will provide landscaping adjacent, for lack of a better term, Lot 9, and provide a transition there for the downhill side of that. So I think that's been covered. The waiver in the front where the applicant said that the one buffer was slightly less than 50 feet, that was caused by actually having to provide turning lanes and that sort of thing. So it was a very minor deviation, and I don't have a problem with what he's indicated. And also to point out in the front, this is between the fast food pad sites and the building itself. They're going to put in berms and a wall as well, so they'll be heavily landscaped along that edge. So I think they've addressed that. And as you see, the last waiver dealt with the fire access road around the building, and the fire marshal has reviewed it. He doesn't have a problem with it, and I think that's been addressed. So I think they've covered all the waivers, and I think they're in pretty good shape.
Okay, so we're generally in agreement with it then.
Yes.
Adam, you have any comments on it?
I don't know. I do not, Chairman.
Any board members have any further questions? If not, I'll open it to the public to, I'm sorry, are you done with your presentation?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from the public for this witness? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll close the public portion. And if you'd like to continue?
Okay. That concludes our testimony on this application. We asked the board to approve this preliminary and final site plan application, and with the variances discussed, there were 5 of them. Waivers, I should say, but there was the 275-foot setback that we discussed, the 50-foot landscape buffer between the Taco Bell and the property, the service driveway to the wet pond buffer of 50 feet, the additional tree and shrub needed in the buffer area between the property line and Lot 9, and again, we're going to provide those, and the 30-foot drive aisle, whereas we've provided a 20-foot drive aisle. Those are the waivers I believe we require from the redevelopment plan, and I think we've identified a few conditions along the way, James, all of which we accepted as we went through the application. So we'd ask the board to approve the application as presented.
Thank you.
And thank you for your attention.
No further questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the application. You want to do general?
Anybody in the public wants to comment.
Okay. I'm reminded by our very able attorney that I'll open it up to the public for whatever questioning you have on this application at this point. Is there anyone here that has a comment or questioning of this witness? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll close that portion, and we'll go for a motion to approve the application with the variances mentioned by the attorney. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, Beth, please.
Yes. Members Coyle,
Yes.
DeLeo,
Yes.
Artman,
Yes.
Lito,
Yes.
Mayor Mengucci,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sampson,
Yes.
Chairman Van Vliet.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. At this portion, we'll open the general public for any questions you want to ask, not necessarily with this application, but you'd like to ask the board. Hearing none, seeing none, I guess we're ready to close.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, I guess we'll vote. Thank you very much for attending.